You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people he claims for his own, to proclaim the glorious works of the one who called you from darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were no people, but now you are God's people. Once there was no mercy for you, but now you have found mercy. I guess that this is the reading for every Vespers I of Sunday in the Easter season, because we've had it literally every single time. And I think this is good. And I just had this reading also earlier today at a baptism. This is one of the readings that you can choose for a baptism. On reflection, there may have been a reading I was supposed to choose for a baptism in the Easter season, but I didn't look into that. We'll look into that later. I'm pretty sure the kid is validly baptized either way. With that aside, I think this reading really brings out kind of the central character of baptism, which helps us understand it better, but then also helps us live it better. Because baptism, like any other sacrament that gives character, which if you remember from CCD class 6 million years ago, the sacraments that give character are baptism, confirmation, and priesthood. And that character is a permanent mark upon your soul. In baptism, this permanent mark upon your soul makes you a child of God. Before we were his creatures, but now we are adopted sons and daughters in Jesus Christ, who is the Son by nature. We receive that by grace in baptism. And what St. Peter gets at in this letter is what that character does, what it's for, what it transforms us to be able to do. Because if it's a permanent mark on our soul, it changes us, it makes us different. Something that was not there before is there now. And what St. Peter is talking about is what that new thing is. We're a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation he claims for his own, to proclaim the glorious works of the one who called you from darkness into his marvelous light. By baptism, we are made a chosen race, and specifically, the thing that I want to talk about here is that we are a royal priesthood. This refers to the common priesthood of the baptized. Every baptized person is a priest. Not in the same sense in which I'm a priest by ordination. That's another sacrament and another mark on the soul that gives me powers that the ordinary layperson doesn't have. I like talking about sacraments in terms of superpowers. It's not the most technical language, and it probably wouldn't get into the Summa, but it's way more fun. And it gets the CCD kids more excited, I guess. In baptism, though, we do have a real priesthood. And in the passage immediately before this, this is verses 9 and 10. And so in the 7 and 8, St. Peter talks about making spiritual sacrifices in the new church built of living stones. The baptized, by their baptism, by that seal on their soul that changes them, are able in themselves to make the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. And this is nothing new, right? This isn't some new doctrine. St. Paul says exactly this in his letters. He says that in your baptism, you die with Christ. And, we normally think of this in terms of being dead to sin because of baptism, and so now we live according to Jesus. And so all those other old sinful things we used to do, we don't do those, and now we do new things. But those new things are still the death of Jesus Christ. St. Paul says this also, because Christ is crucified daily in my flesh. That's not an exact quote. It's kind of compiling a couple different passages together, but if St. Augustine can do it, I can do it too. And so this is what it means to be baptized. This is what St. Peter is getting at, and this is what he's calling on us to do. By our baptisms, we have been made a royal priesthood and a holy nation in Jesus Christ. And what the old sacrifices of goats and burnt wheat and whatever in the temple did, we do in our hearts, where we offer up our whole lives, the small annoyances of every day, the big losses that we struggle with and grapple with again and again over years, the joys, the beautiful blessings that God gives us, every single one of those things we offer up to God in the altar of our hearts. We make spiritual sacrifices of worship to God in Christ Jesus. That is what baptism does. That is what it's for. It takes us from normal people who are separated from God and turns us into priests who can give him real and true spiritual worship. So like what Jesus said to the Samaritan woman in the Gospel of John. My followers will worship me in spirit and in truth. You do that in your heart when you offer up your joys, your triumphs, your sufferings, your struggles to God as a spiritual sacrifice. That's what we're called to. That's what this Easter season is about, and that's what you remember as we reflect upon our baptism in this Easter season. God has changed you. You're a different person because of your baptism, and you can do something different for the glory of God the Father. Because once you were no people, but now you are God's people. Once there was no mercy for you, but now you have found mercy.